Okay, so we're gonna use this side panel that I removed from that chair that I'm restoring and show you how to do a repair. Not like this, because it's more like this. This cut represents where the pressure on the side of the chair ripped the seam along the frame on the side panel on the chair. And I'm going to be sending you, you'll need this glue, this neoprene cement, a piece of leather, and some scissors is pretty much it. A piece of cardboard, like a side flap from a cardboard box is good too, or something stiffer like a piece of wood is good as well. In fact, I'd almost recommend wood. I'm going to grab a piece. Don't pause it. And I'll show you why the piece of wood. So, if we are just removing the front nails and the bottom nails, and we find it's flexible enough to get to it without damaging the leather or creating a crease on this side, good. If not, remove the whole back, or the back panel on the side and the back panel nails too, so we can lift this flap up like this. It's best to have the chair on its side like this, and when you have it like that, you'll see this tear. You want to measure the length of the tear, and with the leather, you'll want to cut it. I don't do squares, I do ovals, because it makes a less obvious mark as it settles in against the frame or wherever else you're gluing it to. I find that the suede side to the suede side works the best. So I want to cut this longer than the tear. The tear is from here to here. This panel is this long. Then I'm going to flip this over. It's a little easier for me because I have it off of there. But if this was, I'm going to even nail this to this. Here you go. I'll put the nails in the foam like this panel's up. And you're dealing with this on the chair itself. I would get this glue. I would recommend rubber gloves for the smearing of the glue. You're going to want to cover this piece of leather as fully as possible. I'm using a bare finger because I'm a bad boy, and I'll probably suffer for it one day. But I like the feel of it against the more tactile feel than with the glove. So I'm getting a real good concentration on the edge and the whole outer edge so that it stays and doesn't peel off the inside of the leather later on. This is really good neoprene contact cement. It's flexible. It stinks and give you a buzz if you do too much of it in a enclosed area. So I'm covering this whole thing. Spreading it pretty thin so it dries and tacks up quickly. Okay, so that's good. Then I'm going to go to the seam. This is where the board comes in. It's good A there, and B, you can put it on the flap so that you have the flap something to press against. So give yourself a pretty big surface area. You don't have to make it the exact same size as the piece, although it's better if the glue contacts evenly. And be careful when you're rubbing across the seam itself so you don't push glue through the seam to the other side, because it doesn't really come off the leather too easily when it hasn't been waxed in a long time. And those chairs are kind of pretty original shape without a lot of wax on them. So I'm going to do the whole patch area like that. When you have, this is kind of a straight cut. I did this with a razor blade, so it's not that obvious. And you can see not too much glue came out, just a teeny bit. If you have a tear like this on an older one, this tear, look closely at this if you can. There's two edges to this tear, and one of them is a little bit more raw, and the other one is the top surface a little bit. When you're putting the glue on this, you're going to want to make sure from this side that you can tell which side is the top side, which is the bottom side, so that it overlaps. But there is room to finesse it afterwards too. And what I mean is there's just sometimes just a teeny little lip, which one side should be slightly below the other one. And you'll be able to see that depending on how it tore in the chair, okay? So this piece is still attached to the chair. And I'm gonna, for purposes, have it in such a way that I can put the flap on the hard piece of wood. This is kind of a two-person operation, so someone else can hold that. And then I'm going to lay this piece. Let's see how the tack. That's pretty tacky. You got one chance to set it, but it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of laying it on there nice and flat. and you can always get it the whole length of the piece. Lay it on there nice and smooth, rub it out, get it on all the way, and then once you've got it down and you're pretty comfortable that it's a nice smooth, you think, gosh, I'm worried about that jagged edge on the other side, which is the top and the bottom. That's true, but now that I can flip this here, I'm going to switch the wood to the inside of the flat and close it back over the chair like this, and you can see now the seam. See the seam? This is when I look to see, did I get it right? Which side lays over the other one, because there's a little bit of a jagged edge with the surface on the one. And it's with a razor blade or a something very thin. Where's my cutter? Is it here? With this razor blade, you can finesse the lip a little bit and just get underneath it slowly and lift that lip up to get it so that it's sitting on the right side. Make sure your fingers are nice and dry, no glue at all, and then slowly get that in there and rub it in there. Any excess glue that does squeeze through, you can gently rub it on the side and it'll ball up, and you can rub it off. If it starts to stick and smear, give it another second to tack up and then gently try it again. If it smears slightly, well, that's not the end of the world. It is what we call now an honorable wound. But as you can see, that's a nice clean seam from the same type of tear that you have. From what I could tell, it didn't make too jagged of an edge. I'm going to focus on the seam and make sure it's close. And you can also push the leather with 2 thumbs if a gap opens up. There's still a little bit of movement in the beginning before it dries really hard. It's still got that flexibility, which is why I use the neoprene cement. Plus it flexes with the leather. So that's looking pretty good there. This is coming through on a hole in this old leather. And then if you want to check it, I'd give it a little time. Now you're going to work the outer edge of the leather to make sure it's adhering really well there. Just rub gentle circles with your thumb or forefinger, middle finger, whatever, to get that on there, and you're looking pretty good. Now I'm going to roll this back up, and I'm going to actually put my hand underneath it and make sure it's not adhering to the wood. And I'm going to lay this back like it is, and there you see it's got a nice even patch. And it's all the way adhered to the side. And then I would let that dry for maybe a day, so that this glue stays elastic but is not going to move at all. And once you're comfortable with that, you will be able to start returning this panel back to its original position. If you did take the nails off the back and the back panel, you're going to want to tack the middle first, middle of the bottom, stretch it halfway to the edges but not all the way, work down the front seam, and then work the corners last. Same thing here. Don't go straight to the edge because you might get a bubble here. Work from the middle to about here, work down, and then work the corner. There was a slight depression where whatever pushed against that chair tore the leather. Stretch the leather slightly with this patch and the repair, and 24 hours drying, you should be able to grab the leather at this front edge and stretch it a little bit to get that little bit of stretch out of it and re-secure it to the side. I don't use the original tacks when I'm re-securing a chair. I use normal staples. You don't want to set the you don't want to set your pressure for your staple gun more than around 80-85, and you don't want to put too heavy pressure because it can cut through the leather. Lay a row of staples in there, lay a row of staples on the bottom, staples on the back, and then you put your back panel on if you needed to, put your tacks back on, and then you can put your bottom panel and your dust cover. So I'm going to be sending you some of the glue, a new tube of the glue, several pieces of new leather, and 1 piece of this old leather too, because sometimes this old leather works nice too, and it's thin enough and supple enough that it might do better for a patch. And I'll let you decide what size patch you want to do from which material. I'll pre-cut some squares so that you'll have plenty to work with. I'll also send you some new tacks for the back. If you could send me a photograph of the back of the tacks, I'll try to get one that are similar color in case in the process of removing the back nail heads, the back tacks, they bend and you need to replace them, you'll have some spares to do that as well. If the seam looks like this after it's been repaired, I honestly wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't try to wax it, I wouldn't try to do it, because scratches and repairs like this actually trap the wax and make it more obvious. So good luck. If you're not satisfied with the result and you think it's too obvious or too ugly or whatever, then at that point we can you know, I would say don't put it back together. Take the panel off completely, send it to me. I'll do a color match panel as close as I can and get that to you within a couple weeks. Sorry you had the problem. I'm glad you love the chairs. Thank you, Nancy, for helping out Rebecca with this. And I look forward to seeing the repair and seeing them in your home. So thanks so much. Bye.